The History of Thomas Jefferson's Monticello. You're watching Cultured Elegance. Make sure to like and subscribe. According to Fisker Kimball, in a book he wrote in 1915, he stated, "Directly or indirectly, American classicism traces its ancestry to Jefferson, who may truly be called the father of our national architecture." From the book Houses of the Presidents by Hugh Howard, he writes, "Alone among American presidents, Thomas Jefferson, who lived from 1743 to 1826, has a place in the pantheon of great American architects. He didn't merely inhabit his remarkable house, Monticello. He also dreamt it, drew it, and supervised its construction. As he rethought and refined its design for some 54 years, the red-headed idealist who helped launch an unstoppable wave of democratic change gradually aged into a grey and stooped elder statesman. Today, the impact of his restless intelligence over that entire span is on display in Monticello's classical details, eclectic furnishings, art, and other collections. Born in Charlottesville in 1743, Thomas Jefferson attended William and Mary College for 2 years, graduating in 1762. He remained in Williamsburg to read law, but returned to Charlottesville to practice, and in 1772 married Martha Wales Skelton. She bore him 6 children, 2 of whom would survive to adulthood. Before the Revolution, Jefferson was elected to the Virginia Assembly. During the war, he became Virginia's governor. Martha died in 1782, and her husband would never remarry. From 1785 to 1789, Jefferson served as minister to France, and, upon returning home, accepted newly elected George Washington's appointment as the first Secretary of State, a job he performed until 1793. He was elected vice president in 1797, then president from 1801 to 1809. After leaving office, he was bent upon creating an academical village for his fellow Virginians. In 1825, the University of Virginia welcomed its first students. The home he began on the top of a mountain was never conceived as a simple dwelling. The bookish Jefferson wished to raise the tastes of his region. He studied architectural texts, chief among them Andrea Palladio's The 4 Books on Architecture, written in 1570. In the plates of the villas that Palladio designed for his native Veneto, Jefferson recognized both beauty and practicality in designs that aligned with his own desire for a grand country house that would double as the administrative center for his plantation. The Virginian and the Renaissance designer shared a passion for carefully proportioned, symmetrical, and balanced buildings. Jefferson based his first plan for Monticello on Palladio's Via Cornaro. Jefferson's initial vision of Monticello was never fully realized, since the slow building process was interrupted by his wife's death. By the time construction resumed, more than a decade later, Jefferson had a new design. He returned from his 5-year ministerial sojourn in Paris, where he had practiced his architectural skills, dispatching back to Richmond renderings for a new Virginia capital, one based on an ancient Roman temple, the Maison Carrée in Nîmes. The new plan he had conceived for Monticello drew upon modern precedents, one in particular. Certainly, the house would be classical, with a temple front, meaning its facade featured columns supporting a triangular pediment. However, having become violently smitten with a grand mansion he saw under construction in Paris, the Hôtel de Siam, he borrowed its dome, thereby making Monticello the first residence in America to be capped by a dome, and, by lowering the second-floor windows and adding a perimeter roof railing, gave the structure the look of a gracious one-story house, but one with living space on the ground floor, mezzanine, and attic levels. The new plan enlarged upon the first, as 8 rooms became 21, not including the kitchen, stables, and other dependencies that were to be largely hidden in a pair of flanking service wings below grade. Jefferson needed a larger home to accommodate both a growing multi-generational family and his collections, as Monticello became an immense curio cabinet, packed with evidence of his varied enthusiasms. He was a natural philosopher. His most private room, his cabinet, was chock-a-block with scientific instruments, including a theodolite and microscope. He trusted the printed word beyond any man's, and in his 83 years, he accumulated 3 distinct libraries, totaling some 10,000 volumes, many in foreign tongues. He had a reading knowledge of 6 languages, including Latin and Greek, in addition to English. He was an inveterate tinkerer, always on the search for new devices. One that he adopted and helped perfect was the polygraph, a mechanical contraption that made file copies of his letters as he wrote them. Jefferson brought back more than architectural ideas from France. He shipped some 80 crates of objects to Virginia. A lifelong shopper, he found goods to acquire in the United States too, and, as a result, the public spaces in his house were decorated with copies of old master paintings, along with portraits and busts of worthies, who ranged from Enlightenment thinkers, including Locke and Newton, to friends and contemporaries he admired, Franklin, Lafayette, and Washington. The entrance hall became a museum of American artifacts, including maps, antlers, and Native American objects. Jefferson also had an appetite for food and wine, and regarded himself as a farmer above all. Monticello's acres are a mix of ornamental landscape garden and agricultural workspace, where foodstuffs for the table were grown even as Jefferson conducted botanical experiments. Monticello has been restored to its post-presidential appearance, when it was home to the former president and his extended family. Research into Jefferson's life at Monticello continues, and a recent paint analysis determined that the dining room was repainted around 1815, using a newly available pigment, chrome yellow. In an age where nighttime illumination provided well less than the equivalent of a mere 5 watts of light, bright colors were fashionable and enhanced the atmosphere. Jefferson's tea room is an intimate space, as the semi-octagonal end wall seems to embrace the table at the center of the high-ceilinged but small 11 by 15-foot room. Looking down from cornice level are 4 busts, all copies of the work of French sculptor Jean-Antoine Houdon. From left are Lafayette, Benjamin Franklin, George Washington, and naval hero John Paul Jones. On Jefferson's return from his Paris years, he employed the French convention of the built-in or alcove bed. In this image, the view is from his bedchamber through to his study, or cabinet. Jefferson created a suite of private rooms for himself at the south end of Monticello. Known as the cabinet, or study, this was perhaps the most private space of all. It has been called his inner sanctum, and even his architectural thinking cap. Whatever term one applies, this was the space where the philosopher Jefferson was alone with his thoughts, his books, and his correspondence, of which he made copies with the polygraph, the device on the table at center. Beyond its architectural significance, Monticello functioned as a working plantation, sustained by the labor of enslaved people. The estate produced crops, housed workshops, and was a hub of intellectual exchange, where Jefferson pursued his interests in science, agriculture, and governance. After Jefferson's death in 1826, financial struggles forced his family to sell Monticello. The estate changed hands several times, until the Thomas Jefferson Foundation purchased it in 1923, preserving it as a museum and historical site. Monticello stands not merely as the residence of Thomas Jefferson, but as a reflection of his multifaceted genius and enduring legacy. Jefferson transformed his architectural aspirations into a physical reality, intertwining his personal narrative with the evolution of American architecture. His deep appreciation for classical design, inspired by figures such as Andrea Palladio, reflects a broader vision to elevate the aesthetic and cultural standards of his time. Today, it remains a site of reflection, inviting us to explore the intricate relationship between one of America's founding fathers and the architectural heritage he left behind. Monticello is not only a house, but a narrative of ambition, resilience, and the ever-evolving American spirit. Thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share, and check out our weekly newsletter located in the description of this video. I'll see you in the next one.